So I quit alcohol 10 years ago, almost to the day. I don't know the anniversary. This is Ralphie, by the way. He's driving me crazy right now. Having a new puppy is like having a newborn baby, I've discovered. Anyway, I don't know the exact date because 10 years ago when I decided to quit drinking, I was lucky enough to discover a book by a guy called Jack Trimpey called Rational Recovery. And because I had been to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting many years before, and 10 years ago I went to another one, and I just found it very depressing. I didn't like it. It felt good to be in a situation of support, but didn't feel very inspirational to me. And I just looked for an alternative, and I found Jack Trimpey's book, and it turns out that, you know, his view is very much that AA doesn't really work. For most people, it just gives you a mechanism that helps you to cope, gives you a support network, great, but I wanted to stop drinking. And with AA, so often people relapse, right? Now, one of the reason I don't know the date I stopped drinking 10 years ago was because I read, God, he's biting me like crazy. I read in Jack Trimpey's book that people who have the kind of AA mentality of you've always got a disease, you're always going to have a disease of alcoholism, they're very reliant on dates. So they know when they stop drinking. And that means that, you know, you get to 1 month dry, you get to 6 months dry, you get to a year. The problem with that mentality is it plays into this sense that you're really only buying time until your next relapse. You mark that time, it's significant to you because you feel it's an achievement, and you very often you think, well, I've done a year, I'm proud of myself, let's have a drink. So his point was, don't worry about how long it's been, because you're never going to drink again. And that was what I decided. I realized I was drinking ever since I was very young, 12, not all the time, but I started drinking when I was about 11 or 12 to cope with anxiety. And I carried on drinking throughout my teenage years, when I go to pubs and everything, and then throughout my adult life, when I'd be happy, when I'd be sad, when I'd be stressed, when I'd be celebrating, whatever it was, I would drink. And I knew it was going to kill me one day if I kept drinking, because I would binge, right? So I got to a certain point just after my daughter was born. Jesus. And I thought, I'm not going to live a long life if I carry on like this. So I really need to stop. But I needed a way to think about it. And Jack Trimpey's book was the way. And his view, and very much one that I share, is that you don't say, I've got a disease, I'm always going to have a disease. You say, I used to be an alcoholic. You know, very often, typically, people who buy into this AA mentality say, I'm an alcoholic, but I haven't had a drink for 8 years or something. What are you doing over there? I subscribe to Jack Trimpey's view, which is that I'm not an alcoholic anymore. I will never drink again, and I haven't even come close to having a relapse for 10 years. It was around about February 2016. My daughter was only a few months old, and I thought, I want to be a good father to her, you know, and I've got to stop. And I told everyone around me, I knew it. I knew I'd had that moment of, I've cracked it. I'm never going to drink again. But I didn't expect people to believe me. And I never said, oh, you've got to believe me. I was like, no, you'll see. But I know it's different this time. Anyway, so having said that dates are not that important, nevertheless, I'm still very proud of the fact that I've gone 10 years without drinking. And I'll go another 10 and many more. Because life is better just being myself rather than losing who I am, you know. That's it. But I recommend this book to anyone who's struggling with addiction. It's very empowering. Yeah, buy the book.